Hi, this is Bill, and I would like to introduce you the deck that I use recently a lot. This is a best of one deck, and I use it in Mythic tier in Arena. It's basically a Monoblack Auras deck with some changes I made against mostly Yorion decks. And let's see, it has 16 creatures, 22 non-creatures, 22 lands plus 1, so the average mana value is only 2.1. We can almost always cast anything we want. So let's see what we have in the deck. Let's start with the lands. We have 3 Faceless Havens, so of course we use snow-covered lands, 18 snow-covered swamps for our havens, and 1 castle locked vein. Sometimes it is very good to draw extra cards. Also, we have a Malakir Mire if we really need it. Let's continue with the base of this deck. It's Monoblack Auras. It's got its name from the playset of Deadweight, -2/-2 for enchanted creature, and playset of Mire Grasps, -3/-3 for enchanted creature. These 4, well actually 8 spells are the main ways for us to kill off the enemy's creatures. Of course, we have a playset of Archfiend's Vessel. These are 1/1 creatures with lifelink, but if they arrive to the battlefield from the graveyard, then we exile them and we get a 5/5 flying demon, so it's wonderful. For Hateful Eidolons, they are 1/2 creatures with lifelink, and whenever an enchanted creature dies, then we draw a card for each aura we controlled that was attached to that creature. So whenever we have a Hateful Eidolon on the battlefield and we kill something with a Deadweight or Mire Grasp, then we draw a card for each enchantment and for each Eidolon. So for example, if we have 2 Eidolons and we kill off a bigger creature with 2 enchantments, then we draw 4 cards. So sometimes it's crazy how many cards we can draw with this draw engine. We have Malakir Rebirth. Choose target creature, use 2 life. Until end of turn, that creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tabbed under its owner's control with instant. This is not only good to save our Lurrus or something else, but for example with Archfiend's Vessel, if we just block a creature with this and before damage we cast Malakir Rebirth on it, then these dice go to the graveyard and it returns to the battlefield from the graveyard, so its ability is triggered and we will get the 5/5 flying demon. There are 3 Village Rites. They are good either to kill off our own Archfiend's Vessels to cast them from the graveyard, or to just get more cards. There are 3 Acquisitions Experts. They are 1/2 creatures. When they enter the battlefield, then the opponent reveals a number of cards equal to the number of creatures in our party. We choose one of those cards and that player discards that card. What we have to know about this card, that if this card arrives on the battlefield, its ability goes to the stack, and if the opponent kills off our acquisition expert, and actually if they kill off all of our creatures within our party, so there will be 0, then they will discard no cards. This is something good to know about. But other ways, we usually just have to choose from one or two cards, because we have one cleric and no other things, so only the rogue and cleric can be in our party. Oh, and Faceless Haven, sorry. Faceless Haven is all creature types, so if we have an activated Faceless Haven and cast the Acquisitions Expert, then we can choose from two cards from our enemy's hand. We have Call of the Death Dweller, 3 of them. With this on sorcery speed, we can return up to 2 target creatures with total mana value of 3 from our graveyard to the battlefield. Either of them can receive a Death Touch, and then either of them can receive a Menace counter. We can return 1 Lurrus with them, or 2 of our other creatures. We have 2 copies of Elspeth's Nightmare. It's a saga. First, it destroys target creature and opponent's control with power 2 or less. Second, target opponent reveals their hand. We can choose a non-creature, non-land card, and they discard that card. Third, we exile our opponent's graveyard. I love this card very much, because sometimes it is good to cast this even without destroying a creature, just to know that we will see our opponent's hand next turn, and to exile their graveyard two turns later. This is one of the changes I made in this deck. Originally this deck had only one copy of Elspeth's Nightmare in it. I made it to have 2, because I would like to have it more times in my hand. There are 2 copies of Demonic Embrace. This is an ancient creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+1, has flying and is a demon, and we can cast this spell even from our graveyard by paying 3 life and discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs. This is very good for all of our creatures, because our little 1/1s and 1/2s can become 4/2s and 4/3s, and Lurrus can become 6/3s. So, and most of our creatures have lifelink, so we can get the insane amount of life if we have this aura on any of our lifelink creatures. And this gives flying to the creature, so we have better evasion, just fly above enemy lines. We have 3 Lurrus in the deck. They are one of the main ways, besides Call of the Death Dweller, to cast our permanents from the graveyard. We can recast any of our creatures, and both Dead Weights and Mire Grasps. If we have Lurrus in the field and anything in the graveyard that we can cast, then our opponent just has to solve it. We have 2 copies of Rankle, Master of Pranks. It is a flyer with haste, 3/3, and whenever it deals damage to a player, then we can choose any of the followings. Each player discards a card, each player loses 1 life and draws a card, Each player sacrifices a creature, so we can choose none of them, all of them, any of them. In the gameplays, I will tell more details each time I choose, and I will tell why I choose those options. Skull Raid. This is a 4-mana sorcery. Opponent discards 2 cards, but if they have less than 2 cards in hand, then we can draw cards. If they have just 1 card in hand, then we draw 1 card and they discard that card. And if they have no card in hand, then we draw 2 cards. Perfect. And we can foretell this card for 2 mana, and after that we can cast this for 2. So we can foretell this on our second turn, and later we can cast it for 2 mana anytime. Actually, I included this card against Yorion decks because I felt a little weak against them, but with this and with 3 copies, I many times can just make them discard their good spells if I can time it right. But actually I realized that this card is good against almost every deck. I think I won many games with this card. I love this deck because I feel that I can do anything. Cut. I love this deck because I feel that I can do something no matter what, because the average mana value is very low, so we can start with only 2 lands in our hand, and later we can draw more with either Village Rites or our Eidolons, and we can turn games by replaying something from our graveyard. So many times it happens that we have no card in hand but have like 4 or 5 lands, and we draw a Lurrus or a Call of the Death Dweller, and we win the game by replaying many things from our graveyard. It's it's wonderful. I love it. In case you are curious, I wanted to show you the statistics of this deck. I copied it when I reached Mythic, so all what you can see here are matches in Mythic tier. I played 50 matches, won 30, lost 20. It's a 60% win rate. Yeah, at first I won around 4 or 5 matches in a row, then lost that many and went down to 50%, but with time it's around 60%, as you can see. About the matchups. Here what you can see that we are favored against aggro decks, mono red, mono white, Boros or Lorehold. We can beat them most of the time. I think we are not favored against Yorion, but interestingly enough, in Mythic tier I have more wins against Yorion decks than losses. Rogue's matchup is awful, so sometimes we can win, but rarely. Another thing that I would like to point out, that the matches are fast. So what you can see here, that there are only few matches that lasted more than 10 minutes, and none of them lasted more than 15 minutes. Before this deck I played mono blue list and well, a control deck, and after that I can say that this is insanely fast. We can win under 4 minutes many times. It's fast and with very good win rates, I think. I hope you liked this deck tech description. Now let's go to the gameplay videos. Actually, I couldn't include comments while making the videos, so I recorded the comments after. But I hope it's good this way as well. I hope you will enjoy these. Thank you for watching. Hand looks good. We have something to do on turn 1 and 2. Opponent goes first, so we can either kill their first creature or put our own Eidolon down. And of course, it is better to kill this as soon as we can. So we do that. And well, that doesn't seem good. And we do not have more removals, so we just put our own Eidolon down and wait for their next move. Next turn we can kill them with Elspeth's Nightmare. They attack, of course we do not block. And a Righteous Valkyrie comes down. Well, it will be a better target for our Elspeth's Nightmare. It seems more dangerous. Let's kill it. Fortunately, it has only 2 power, so we can kill it with Elspeth's Nightmare. Next turn we can use Rankle if they do not put another creature down, but most likely they will. Yes, alone in War Leader. Oh, we draw Lurrus. We can see from the Elspeth's Nightmare that they have nothing in hand, and we have the Lurrus. It is best to cast it because we have a dead weight in our graveyard, so we can have Lurrus and kill the 2/2 creature. And we just do that. And an interesting thing that this War Leader seems frightening, that it creates 1/1 tokens every time it attacks, but actually it's not bad for us because both of our creatures have lifelink. So if it attacks, then we do not block it, but we block the tokens, and that way we will gain 4 life each time. So, okay, we will get 5, but heal 4, so only 1 damage. Another Righteous Valkyrie. Fortunately, we have Lurrus, so we can use the already used deadweight from the graveyard, and we have another one in hand, so with 2 of them we can kill off the angel. It is the better thing to do. We could have just cast Rankle, but it's not as safe, as we cannot guarantee anything with it. But this way we can guarantee that it died, and we drew 2 cards from it. If the opponent had cards left in their hand, then it is good to cast the Expert at this time. Now actually, I think it would have been better to leave the Eidolon in hand, because with Malakir's Rebirth we could have blocked with this. But I guess at that time I thought that okay, next turn I just play it from my graveyard, but it would have been more safe to block now, cast Malakir Rebirth, and then we have that 5/5 flyer, even if they somehow exile or kill our Lurrus this turn. Fortunately for us, Lurrus stayed alive, so we can continue our rampage against our enemy. And as soon as they see Rankle, they know that we will make them sacrifice their war leader. We go first, hand looks good. We see that we are against the Yorion deck, so maybe we will use that way to kill our own vessel, to cast it from the grave. We will see. We start by putting our vessel down. Village Rites. That can be good as well. I made it this way, so we have Village Rites up if they have a removal for our vessel, then sacrifice it with Village Rites to draw 2 cards. Here I choose not to use it at the moment. Attack as much as we can, and let's see what we can make our opponent discard. Some removals. Okay. They kill. We use our Village Rites. That is dead anyway. And this way we can either draw 2 cards or make them use a counter spell that can be important later in the game. But for now we just attack. They have 4 mana, so they have access to more and more spells. They foretell something. What can it be? Now I was thinking if it would be good to just attack, but we can do better. Because if we attack only with the 2 vessels, then kill one of our vessels, then we can have our 5/5 flying demon this turn. Of course, for this we need our opponent to not have counterspell. But it seems they do not have it. It's good for us because this way we will have the 5/5 demon and we can make them discard another card. Let's see what they have. Here they have only 4 mana, so they are 2 turns away from Professor Onyx. That's why I think it is better to make them discard a land, because it is possible that they have just this one land, and if they do not draw a land, then they can not play that Planeswalker, and it seems it was the right choice. There are 2 Faceless Havens in hand. It's not possible to play with that, so mulligan, of course. We go first, we see that we are against the Yorion deck. This hand seems fine. Both Elspeth's Nightmare and Skull Raid is very good against Yorion, because we can make them discard their best cards. It is better to toss Eidolon, because most likely they will not have any creatures that we can use our auras on, so Eidolon can be a dead card so we cannot draw cards from it, only by killing our own creatures. Here we start with applying as much pressure as we can with a 1/1 creature, and we cast Elspeth's Nightmare because we want to see their hand. No matter that we cannot kill a creature with it, it is more important for us that next turn we will see what they have in their hand and we can make them discard a card. And yes, we see their hand. And actually here I made a big misplay, because they need much more mana to cast Ultimatum, but they had 2 removals at hand. I should have choose at least one of them, but no, I used the Village Rites because I wanted to cast my creature from the grave later. And this was a trigger-happy early Skull Raid, another very big misplay from my part, because they have many cards in hand, and they discard the bad cards. They still have all the good cards in their hand. I accomplished nothing with those 3 discards. So actually, that was it. From this time I knew that I made mistakes and I will lose, but I tried to see some more cards, because sometimes we can be very lucky, but this was not that time. They have everything they need to win. I should have conceded, but somehow I felt to check one more draw. So in this game I made 2 very bad misplays. One, that I didn't make them discard one of the removals, and after that I should have waited with the Skull Raid until they have less card in hand. That way I could ensure that they discard their best cards. But this way I just had to concede. Opponent has Lurrus in hand, so our starting hand can be okay, but not against the Lurrus deck. We didn't have any removals. We want to have removals in hand. So that's why I mulliganed, and I see that it's a hard choice what to toss. Rankle is very good, and I chose Call of the Death Dweller because I didn't have a vessel in hand, and if I draw just one more land, then I can use Rankle on the 4th turn, and yes, it happened. And now I am happy that I mulliganed because I have removal, and it's a happy coincidence that I have Eidolon, so I draw a card from it, and of course I can attack. Next turn, opt, little odd, but and they do nothing. We continue our aggro start. We have Village Rites to use if they want to do something with our Eidolon, but they just try to draw more cards. Here they are tapped out. We can either put Rankle down or attack with Faceless Haven, but if we use Rankle now, then next turn we can attack with even more. And they put down a Spirit, but we have removal for it. And they just concede, so the mulligan worth it. We go first, we check our opponent, they have no companion, hand seems fine. It is very good against creature heavy decks. So let's see what they have. They start with a creature that we can remove and attack. They can cast that later, but it will be later. Lovestruck Beasts 1/1. And we can kill it with the Elspeth's Nightmare. We do it because 1, they will not have a 1/1 for their 5/5, and next turn we will see their hand, and we have, so that way we will have more information what to do or what not to do. And they cast an Edgewall Innkeeper, and in their hand we can see Giant Killer, Brazen Borrower, Spirit and Toski. Unfortunately we cannot make any of that, we cannot make them to discard any of those, but we see that they have 2 cards with Adventures, so the Innkeeper is very important for them to draw more cards, so we just have to kill it. And we have enough mana to foretell School Raid. If we just cast School Raid this time for 4 mana and they discard 2 cards, then they would have the Innkeeper on the battlefield, and they could draw insane amount of cards. So it was more important to kill that. They have Toski. And this time I choose to make them discard 2 of their 3 cards. It must be a very hard choice for them, because they have 3 good cards in hand. Because I have Vessel on the battlefield, in their place I would leave Giant Killer in my hand and wait for the 5/5 demon to arrive and kill it as soon as possible. They had that same choice to leave the Giant Killer in hand. I do not attack because I want to block Toski. They use Brazen Borrower. Of course, we use Village Rites because that not only draws 2 cards for us, but Brazen Borrower will be countered. They attack with Toski and draw a card. And this is when, in their place, I would do nothing. But they play Giant Killer. Because they play Giant Killer, I am confident to play the Vessel. But before that, Toski can be killed. Many times the match is not about killing the opponent, but first to have control over the battlefield. And actually this Monoblack Auras deck can do that very, very wonderfully. Now we cast Eidolon, and after that we can remove their Giant Killer and draw more cards. Yes, now we see that we could have cast something from our graveyard first, but we wanted to have the Eidolon down to draw cards. And we draw a card. We are fortunate enough that we draw a land, so we can replay a Lurrus. It was lucky. Of course, they do not know that we have another Lurrus in hand, but we know everything they have. I think it was a misplay from them that they played their land. It is better to have something in hand, even if it's a land. And now we are thinking what we should do, and we choose to play the Vessel to have our 5/5 flying demon, because it is always good. And after that we make the choice to cast Demonic Embrace on Lurrus and attack, because we know that they will flash in their Brazen Borrower to kill it, but no matter, we have another Lurrus in hand, and that aura can be replayed from the graveyard. So we get 6 mana, we even get a draw from the Eidolon, and next turn we can cast our other Lurrus. And that is what we do. We cast our Lurrus. We remove their little creature that can block in the air. And we start to attack. And they concede. Good game. We go first, we check. Well, our opponent has very reddish sleeves. In the hand, Village Rites dead with nothing we can do turn 1. If we go first, so we mulligan. Much better hand. What a toss. We have 2 lands in hand, and we think that our opponent will be red deck. Based on that, we choose the discard spell. I mean the expert that can discard. And we start off with Eidolon, because if they have Fervent Champion in hand, then Eidolon can stop it turn 1. Of course, this way, if they have removal, then we just make them kill that little Eidolon. And yes, exactly that happens. We continue with our vessel, and next turn, if we draw another land, we can cast Elspeth's Nightmare, but they do not have any creatures, so we can do nothing actually, but we have removal for their creatures. Rubber of the Rich, they cannot attack. We have only 2 mana, so we cannot use both the Eidolon and the removal, but we can kill the Rubber of the Rich. Our lands arrive, and it is tempting to cast Eidolon, but it's not the good choice, because next turn, if they cast anything, we can cast both the Eidolon and our removal in the same turn, but we choose not to wait more, because they did nothing. I really don't know what they can have in hand. So I choose to attack. The Eidolon dies. We can think about casting Elspeth's Nightmare, but we have no targets for it at the moment, so maybe it's a good choice, maybe not. They have many lands, and the Rubber of the Rich, they attack, they get a Village Rites. In their hand, I would surely cast that Village Rites to have more cards in my hand. 2 more cards is much more important than one little creature that is very easily killed. So I think that was a misplay on their part. Of course I kill their creature and they still do nothing. Now I see their hand and I see that they have 2 removal spells. I can put down the 4th land, so next turn I can use Rankle, and no matter if they do anything, I can make them discard those 2 cards. And then they start top decking. And I guess they see that they have no chance. I have more cards. They concede. We go first. We see that opponent has no companion. Hand seems interesting. We can try with this. This can be either a very good or a very bad start. Three vessels. We have 1 plains on the other side, and we apply all of our 1/1s. No matter what comes from our opponent, we can either remove their creature or make one of our creatures bigger and flyer. But for now, it is best to remove what they have. Aspirant is a threat that we have to address. And we go for damage and for life. They cast a Lurrus. We have a 4th land, so we can use Rankle to make them sacrifice Lurrus. And we make that. We were thinking if we should make them discard a card, but we have only 1 card in hand, they have many, so it is worse for us to discard. Blade Historian, a 2/3. Well, we have to make them sacrifice that as well, but in the meantime we can attack in air. And now we can tell them to discard a card because we have nothing in hand. They discard a land card, they both sacrifice creatures. Well, this is frightening. They have first strike. So here I was thinking if I should attack or not, and I made the choice to attack, and I think that was not a good choice. I honestly don't know why I made that choice, but at that moment somehow it seemed logical. But I should have waited. Now they attack. I do not block. Maybe I wanted to have the aura on my creature for blocking. I don't know. Now I see that they have a 4/4. Even if I use the enchantment, then Rankle will be a 6/4, so it will die from the first strike. So I just try to make so many damage that I can, make them sacrifice. They are down to 5, and they have a Daxos. And they have enough mana to equip more of the Sky Cliffs on it. So it's a 4/6 with first strike. It's not good for us. And we draw just a land. I'm thinking if I should use the Demonic Embrace and Rankle. If I use that, then I cannot have Faceless Haven as a creature, but still, that seems to be the best choice. So I discard a land, and of course I do not attack into first strike. They have a Selfless Savior, so, and they have enough devotion for Heliod. Daxos becomes a 5/8. I was thinking, should I use this now or should I use that later? And actually it doesn't matter, because I made the misplay when I attacked when I shouldn't have. And since then they just drew better and better cards, and I drew nothing good. So here we can see that they will win. I can do nothing. They have Selfless Savior, so even if I somehow could block the Daxos, survival mode. I should have conceded maybe, because I do not think that I have anything in my deck that can solve this. But I think I continued because I got them down to 5, and I thought, man, now I make my try. Sometimes opponents can have misplays, so if I can remove that Blade Historian, then I have a very little chance maybe, but of course they know that they can sacrifice Selfless Savior to save that, so I concede because I have no chance. So actually this deck is based on the decklist of TheChemist, and see what we have as opponent. TheChemist himself. So I was very happy to see them as opponent, and I see that now they play a mono-white list. Our hand was very good for start. You can see that one Eidolon can stop 3 1/1 creatures. So 1/2 creatures seem little sometimes, but it is possible that they do a lot of work by just standing there, frightening the opponent's 1/1s. They reveal planes. We do not attack. And they do nothing. We have enough mana to cast another expert, make them discard another card, and we have Village Rites up, so we can have more cards. They discard a Skyclave Apparition. And they do nothing. So we use the Village Rites to draw more cards, because we have enough creatures to stop their 1/1s, and it is better for us to have more cards in hand. And we get our removals. We check our graveyard that it is not worth to cast anything from there yet. We remove one of their creatures. We draw with the Eidolon. It's a lucky draw because now we will have mana left after this dead weight. We remove their second creature, and another lucky draw. We can remove 3 of their creatures in one turn and draw cards. This was a very good turn, lucky turn. They have their third land, Skyclave Apparition, but we can cast our Lurrus and remove that Skyclave Apparition. They put down a Heliod. They have 2 cards in hand, and actually this is why score rate is so good. They are tapped out, they can do nothing, just discard those 2 cards and they concede. Opponent goes first. They have no companion. Our hand seems okay-ish. We have nothing to do on turn 2 unless we draw something, but we keep because I usually keep a hand if I think about it, and I would keep it if it was after mulligan, because then I'm put down Eidolon, they kill it with Bone Crusher Giant, and then I do nothing. They ramp with Beanstalk Giant, and I choose to wait, because if I play Lurrus now, then they can kill it. No, I didn't choose to wait. I guess I showed that sorcery, because if they kill Lurrus I can replay it from the grave, but they do not kill it, they just attack with the 4/4 Goldspan Dragon. Oh, but they kill it. I don't know if it was a good idea to play it, but maybe yes, because now they are tapped out. But I do not know what I can do against our opponent. They have a Goldspan Dragon. I choose to attack. I think I was waiting for better cards, or I don't know. Genesis Ultimatum, and I have no chance. Here at this point, I was still thinking about what I can do or cannot do. Can I cast Lurrus with Kolv, or do anything? But I realized that no matter what I do, I cannot solve this board state. So only thing left is to concede. I go first. They have no companion. Hand seems, well, okayish. I would definitely not keep this under draw, but under play we can try it, because if they play something, then we can remove it on our second turn. And yes, they start with Faceless Savior. I choose to play Acquisition Expert because I suspect that they have something worse, for me worse, come next turn. And I would like to use the removals on that. Another Faceless Savior, the first will not attack. And third turn. I attack. And I would like to use Village Rites. But first, I was thinking about using Village Rites to have the possibility to draw a better card, but then I changed my mind, because if they have a removal and they want to, for example, stomp my expert, then I am more happy to Village Rites it then. So that's why I waited. And now I sacrificed it to draw more cards. And I draw removals, so one removal, two removal. I have no creatures in hand, although I have the Faceless Haven. I am hesitating if I should use it or not, because it is possible that they have instant removal, but I tried it and they didn't have. So I do it again, but this time I have Village Rites to draw more cards. And I actually do not use it yet. Opponents. Showdown of the Skulls. They reveal high mana value cards. So I know that next turn I can use Lurrus and cast a 2 mana spell from my graveyard. So now I just attack. And here I chose to Village Rites. Actually, I do not know why. I'm not sure that was the right call, because I sacrificed one of my lands. So now I would not do that. But then I used that path. They create a serpent. Now I check that Vinota's ability is triggered only by non-humans, and the serpent is a non-human. So I want to remove that first. And I put down the vessel to block, because I can block, use Village Rites, and then the opponent will get no damage. I mean, I will get no damage from the opponent. And then next turn I can cast Lurrus and something from the grave. And it's Spellbinder. Here, if they choose Village Rites, then I cannot cast it for 1 mana, so here I choose to cast it. Actually, I think that was the wrong call, because I can always just stand before Vinota with the vessel, but somehow I wanted those 2 extra cards, and I get them. I think I was afraid of that that they choose Lurrus, then I have to have 5 mana to cast Lurrus. This way they were thinking what to choose. And they chose Call of the Dead there. And this way I was able to cast Lurrus. And then made my 5/5 demon. That's always good to have a 5/5 flying creature. Skyclave operation. It can only target non-token creatures, so our big demon is okay there. And they attack. We do not block. Because we know that we have 7 mana, we can kill their flyer and we can give enough plus to our demon that we attack and we win. Good game. Opponent goes first. They have reddish sleeves, so I guess it will be a red aggro deck. I have a good starting hand. So that weight I can both attack and remove their creatures. And yes, they start with a red tap land. And I start with our vessel. Hellhound. Well, I can only rarely see that. But it's an easy target. We kill it off, attack, and put down our other vessel. Elite Spellbinder. They check our hand. And most likely they will choose the removal. And yes, they chose the removal, so it will be 4 mana to cast. We attack. We can only hope that they block, but of course they will not. I use Village Rites here because it is possible that we draw another removal, but we do not, so I just use this time to foretell. This way, next turn, we can either make them discard both their cards. Yes, we do not draw more. We check our graveyard. Nothing so important that we should play Lurrus now. Little doggy. And we see what they have here. We attack. If they block, then it is good for us. But they know to not block. And here we choose to make them discard their hand and make them top deck. And it was a good choice because they had Minota. Many times I think that this card wins the game, that we can make our opponent discard something that they would prefer in their hand. And here I was thinking what to do and chose to just not wait for the other vessel. Anyway, we can say that we could cast a 5/5 flyer for 3 mana. That's good. They have more lands than they would like, I think. Here I use the opportunity to suicide my vessel. And actually I should block with my 5/5, but somehow I forget it all. Now I didn't draw land, but I drew a removal, so I can use that. I'm getting frustrated because of lag or something, or connection problems, but everything is good. And I am happy to see a Village Rites, because it can get me more lands. They did not block. And they did not attack, so I used Village Rites at the end of turn. And there's a land I was waiting for. And now I am safe to attack with our dragon, because demon, because I can cast Lurrus and get another 5/5 from the graveyard. And the opponent concedes. I go first. Hand seems good. 2 1-drops, Village Rites, 2-drop, 3-drop. It can be very good. I choose to play the vessel first. Seems we are against Monowhite. It is very bad that they can have protection, so I am happy to trade our vessel. I don't know if they trade if they know that we have another creature. That's why I first attacked, because I wanted to trade. A 3/1, so we cannot use Elspeth's Nightmare. So we'll use our expert to block. because they will surely use their ability to discard a card to make their creature indestructible. So this way we can force them to discard a card for nothing, because we will use Village Rites anyway. And yes, they discarded a card, and we kill a creature to draw 2 cards. It was good for us. Raiden. So here I wanted to cast the creatures from my graveyard. That's why I checked that I have Vessel and Expert, but accidentally casted Elspeth's Nightmare, so it was a lucky accident, because this way I could at least kill 1 creature. But I was a little surprised that what? I didn't want to cast this. And now they have 5/3 with flying first strike. Not something that we want to see. But we can see their hand. 2 Luminary Aspirants. Well, we surely want them to discard one of those. We put all the counters on the creature that stays on the battlefield, because the vessel will go to exile. We have our 5/5 Flying Demon, and we can put down our Eidolons. And we attack, because we want that 1 life. Here, not the life was more important, the life gain, than the damage itself, because they can attack for a lot. So we do not want to kill that in the air yet, because we cannot, simply. That's why we just want to gain as much life as possible. So we attack, both for a lot of damage and to gain life. They are thinking what to do. Aspirant giving themselves counter, and we can make them discard a card, and we will draw a card. Well, it's just a land, but that's more than nothing. And here they have 8 life, so we know that they have only 1 flyer. They can kill only 1 of our flyers. If we attack with both, they can kill 1, and next turn, if we attack with everything, then we may win. But actually, what they didn't count on, that they killed an enchanted creature that had an enchantment in it and on it, and I had 3 Eidolons, so 3 more cards, and now 2 more cards, and they just thought that it's enough for them. So they concede, And we are 1252 in Mythic.